A society grows great when old men plant trees in whose shade they will never sit. An ancient Greek proverb. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode number 16 of the Gap Fillers podcast. My name is Michael Bradford, and let's get started here. First of all, I would like to wish everyone a happy Easter. I apologize for not getting a podcast out last week. I had a long day on Sunday, and then my voice was pretty hoarse, and by the time that I got over that, I was like, all right, I'll just do it on this next Saturday. So, again, apologies. I hope you all had a happy Easter. Not terribly a lot in the news. The Pope has died. The funeral was held today on Saturday, and then there was meetings about with the Zelensky in the Vatican and all that. But today I really want to focus on some Florida news. Alico, one of the state's largest orange producers, is shutting its doors, or rather, they're stopping orange production. Alico, a little profile on Alico. Alico operates about 54,000 acres worth of. They own 54,000 acres worth of land in Florida here. Their major thing is currently citrus, but as of January, they have announced that that 2025 growing season will be their last full year of operation with the orange producers. They'll have a small lease production in 2026, but beyond that, they don't see any more orange production in Florida for this company. So the major thing that they list is the citrus greening disease is really what it's called. There's a scientific name for it that I'm not even going to try to. There's going to be a bunch of those in this. And this Asian greening disease or citrus salad is kind of like a small bug that is like an aphid almost, and it feeds on the sap of orange and citrus trees. And in doing so, it gives it this bacteria that I'm not even going to try to pronounce that basically ruins the tree. It reduces orange production, the quality of the oranges, and eventually kills the tree. It does also open it up to other problems like frosts and hurricanes, other stressors that are introduced normally to an orange tree. A healthy orange tree can get over. With citrus greening, it dies relatively quickly. This has been a problem throughout Florida. Florida has a huge problem with pests that invade the state that are invasive. Anywhere from wild pigs to bugs to anacondas, or you go down the line. Florida has a huge problem. It's a great environment for tropical pests, but Florida is also isolated relatively from other tropical environments. And then these tropical environments get in other bugs from other tropical environments, primarily Southeast Asia or South America, get introduced, and they think that it was smuggled in through tree clippings from Asia in 2005. And then, this is a huge problem with that. And then there's no natural predator, so they have to import the predators. The primary predator that Florida has introduced is the Tamaraxia radiata. For basically, it's a wasp. It's a Southeast Asian wasp. And it eats the psyllids and basically stings them without actually stinging other mammals and in humans. But all that to say is that 90% of orange juice production or orange production has decreased in Florida since the early 2000s. So since the early 2000s, the orange production has decreased 90%. And this is what Florida was once known for. I mean, you go over to Claremont, and they had the Citrus Tower on one of the major highways back in the day, and it was a tourist attraction, and it was to spot all the orange groves. And now, if you go over there, you won't see an orange tree. You can see downtown Orlando in the distance, but the only thing you can see is suburban built homes and strip malls. So there's nothing that you can see in the Citrus Tower. It's still called the Citrus Tower, and I support their project, but in reality, there's nothing left over there. And so Alico is their primary production lands were in the southwest Florida here, primarily DeSoto County, right outside of Arcadia, and then you had Polk County and Lake Wales. So I'll release that, but they have stuff all the way as south as Collier County. So it kind of spans the southwestern part of the state. But their largest one was in DeSoto, and their highest producers were in what is now being grown up into one of the expansion points of Florida now, which is the Highway 27 and Highway 98 corridor there, all the way from Lake Wales, Frostproof, Avon Park to Sebring. That kind of area is one of the growth spots of Orlando or Florida now, and all that is. And so now Alico states that there are several reasons why they are shutting down this production. The biggest one was the greening disease. They blame hurricanes as well. We had 3 successors of hurricanes come through. They blame, let's see here, Hurricane Irma in 2017, Ian in 2022, and Milton in 2024. While that doesn't seem terribly close together, 3 hurricanes. It takes a while to get a tree in production in a full orchard, and basically they were fighting a losing battle between the greening disease and planting new trees. Now Alico claims that they are going to switch to a still agricultural, just different products. They haven't released what those products are going to be. The biggest problem I see is that their Alico is going to be really enticed into selling off and developing lands, as has happened in the past here. One of the there are still several major orange producers in the state of Florida. The biggest problem though is the production, land developers wanting to claim, stake a claim in Florida, even more than they already are. They won't stop until Florida's one big parking lot and suburb. King Ranch is one of the largest ones, but the top 10 landowners in Florida are actually the top landowner in Florida is actually currently the Mormon Church. They have an investment arm of their church, and they own hundreds of thousands of acres. It's called the Farmland Reserve, but it was formerly known as Deseret Ranches of Florida. So they own a lot of Osceola, Orange, Brevard, that kind of area, all the way down to Yeehaw Junction and Kenansville. So a lot of that is Mormon ranch land. Now, the biggest problem with this is that they're looking at being annexed. As I've talked about in one of my first podcasts I ever did, is they are looking at trying to get annexed at least a lot of their Orange County, that is, into the city of Orlando, in order to develop it. And so they're looking at possibly getting out of this ranching business, but in doing so, they're going to try to develop it right up to the Indian River, or excuse me, not Indian River, St. John's River, and develop it into one big suburb again. So Orlando is going to be from all the way over from Claremont and Mascot and Kissimmee, all the way down over to the St. John's River, and that's what I want to fight against. Not that I am wanting people to use government as a tyrannical and not tell people what they can do with their own land. The problem is that it always goes in corruption. We saw this in early American history or mid-American history with the railroads and the land grants of the late 1800s. Post-Civil War, these railroads were granted huge, massive plots of land in order to develop and to put a railroad up through, and a lot of these farming communities kind of developed around the railroad, but it was a really corrupt bargain and the pennies on the dollar kind of deals, and basically the U.S. It helped develop the U.S. for sure, but the problem is that at the end of the day they wouldn't. It squeezed out other people, Jay Gould and all those Vanderbilt. They would help squeeze out other competitors through corrupt means in the legislature and the federal government. So it's funny because the U.S. actually created their own monopolies and stuff like that. Anyways, so King Ranch is still in here. They're based in Texas, but they have large land holdings in South Florida. A lot of it's based around Lake Okeechobee. They have orange groves in Fort Pierce and Avon, and then they have their sugar industry and all that stuff in as well. So back to the top 10 of landowners in Florida: Four Rivers Land and Timber, Rayonier, Mosaic, Lights Brothers, Weinhauser, FPL, U.S. Sugar, St. Joe and Co., and Florida Crystals. Those are the top 10 landowners, and they own 10% of all of Florida. They own about 3.3 million acres of Florida. Now, a lot of this is South Florida, and we'll get into that at a later date. It's been recently brought to my attention that there's a coral growing down in there. I mean, I knew there was a problem with water reclamation in Florida, especially down in the Everglades, but I've recently came into contact with somebody who is more personal in that area, so I hope to get more information and do some more research on that. But the biggest thing I want to focus on is the decline of the orange industry as a whole in Florida. California has overtaken us quite a while ago, but the citrus greening disease and the land development and urban sprawl has really hurt the ability to produce more of the product here in Florida. One of the next industries I think is going to be targeted is the cattle industry, and that is going to be a huge issue. The Mormon Ranch, the Deseret area is part of that problem. That's one of the biggest things I wanted to talk about today. Primarily because it's such a cultural issue, and I believe that Florida needs to be something other than a tourist destination. If everybody's from somebody else in Florida, and there's not a collective identity that's culturally Florida anymore, that is where Florida becomes what a tourist trap looks like. It looks like a bunch of timeshares and rundown, and the people who live there. If you ever been to like the Bahamas or overseas and a tourist trap area, initially it looks really good around in the direct spots that the tourist industry wants you to see. But if you look around the tourist area, it's almost always degraded and dirty and not clean. It doesn't look like it. The tourist industry is always helping, because that's the way kind of tourist industries work, is that it becomes this gimmicky kind of weird thing. You see this in Tennessee and Gatlinburg. And you go to any kind of tourist trap area, and that's the way it's going to be for the most part. And it kind of what it makes it Mickey Mouse. It's literally the term for it. Is it kind of makes a cultural area so degraded, and it makes a mockery basically of the culture uh, of the area. And this big problem is that it's so prevalent now. Is you got the snowbirds in the villages, you got the snowbirds and really on the 27 highway 27, and then you have Kissimmee and Orlando being you know these Walt Disney World destinations, and really no surrounding core industry. The only other industry can be healthcare, and that's not it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If old people move here, the healthcare is going to be here, but it's not an industry of itself. It doesn't create anything. It's not like a lot of these places are biotech companies, and even those aren't really those big of an industry, because they wouldn't hire a ton of people. So it becomes a problem, and a cycle that needs to be halted, not through government processes necessarily, but through cultural awareness and cultural identity. I think is a huge part of that. There's and then if you go over to the coast, it's the same thing. What's funny about the Titusville and the coast, over there by the space centers, is that those are more of a core industry. You still have a lot of the fishing and tourist industry for that stuff, with the beaches, but but NASA and SpaceX still bring a core industry that is unique to the area. And doesn't bring a turnover of people and investment, and that kind of cycles through. In most parts, it's kind of different. So I would say that those kind of areas are more true Florida than Orlando is for the most part. And then you got Clearwater over there, and Miami. All these places are tourist destinations, and they're not they don't produce and actually create a product, and therefore it just slowly drains the kind of drains the cultural identity. As more people come on vacation, oh, wouldn't it be great to live here? And so they go and live there, and because so many people move there, they become less of Florida and more of where they moved from. New York, California, Illinois, Chicago, kind of thing. Wherever, even foreign. So it becomes this self-fulfilling prophecy that Floridians don't want to live around people that aren't culturally like them, so they move somewhere else. Well, eventually there becomes less of an area to move to, and it just kind of destroys the foundation of a civilization, so to speak. So, yeah, that's the one thing I wanted to talk about mostly. The second issue, the big thing today. Now, this one is not part of Florida news, but is national news. Is the U.S. charges Milwaukee judge with obstruction and an immigration arrest with Trump crackdown. This is from Reuters. There have now been two judges that have been arrested with the interference of immigration, with Trump trying to deport all of the illegal immigrants, starting with the criminals. So they showed up. Immigration showed up in plain clothes, but obviously had their badges and all that to arrest one of the Eduardo Flores Ruiz inside a courthouse in Milwaukee this past week, or on April 18th, and one of the biggest things. So she walked in. Dugan is a judge that was arrested. She told them to come back with a judicial warrant when they only had an administrative warrant. But in doing so, the Dugan also told the Ruiz and his lawyer to leave out of a side room that is usually used for juries and the like. So, thereby helping him evade arrest after he ran, and then they arrested him. So, Trump has been obviously pushing to arrest illegal immigrants that have been charged or previously or currently with crimes. This puts them into the system and on the radar. What this also does, though, is that it allows the administration to kind of save face. Okay, so it's not like now they do arrest everybody that's involved. That's also an illegal immigrant. It's kind of like if you arrest one person, it leads to a side arrest. But this is deportation. So Ruiz has now been arrested and is ready to be deported. Dugan has entered a plea, or is scheduled to enter a plea on May 15th. Now, the Democrats are kind of rallying their troops, their ground support, and a crowd formed outside the outside the courthouse and chanting "Free the judge now." All this stuff is kind of politically motivated. However, all the victimization and the martyrization of people that are obstructing immigration law. However, I will say that I think the Trump administration is entering a no-fail situation. If Trump, I 100% believe Trump is doing the right thing with the immigration policy. The Maryland man hope is just dumb. It's not, he's a legal immigrant from El Salvador. That lived in the U.S., was associated with a foreign gang, and is being deported. So that was brought to my attention, and before looking into it, I saw I'm like, oh wow, he did deport a Maryland man, and they said that they must the courts ruled that he must be brought back. Well, no, that's not what. That if the opportunity presented itself that he was to be brought back, well, Trump's not going to bring him back. And he's a foreign citizen and not a citizen of the United States. So therefore, he has no lawful right to be here. And then the courts also ruled that that lower courts can't force the executive branch to engage in foreign diplomacy. So, and that it doesn't matter. So the second judge that was arrested was more of a no-brainer for sure. New Mexico it's a judge from New Mexico that was linked with or he helped a man evade authorities who was linked to Venezuelan street gang, and it was in Houston. This gang member was found living on the judge's property. Excuse me. The former judge, Joel Cano, this is a quote from Reuters, was charged alongside his wife, Nancy, after they allegedly helped the man, who faces illegal gun possession charges, destroy a cell phone believed to contain evidence of him holding firearms, according to a criminal complaint. Now, I believe all gun laws are a violation of the Second Amendment. However, this guy was a gang member and not a U.S. citizen who should be deported. So whether he should have had a gun or not is beside the point. The point is that he doesn't belong here, especially if he's affiliated with the gang. So so those are the two stories I really wanted to bring to light today. I appreciate y'all listening, and if you want to help support the podcast, subscribe on YouTube, subscribe on Spotify, like, comment, rate, whatever you want to do, review, comment on Facebook. It's Florida Gap Fillers. I added the Florida to help focus the podcast down to what I try to focus on. And so it's the Florida Gap Fillers podcast officially now. And then at Gap Fillers 1776 on X. I appreciate y'all and have a good week.